Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and I bring you a cornetto. I don't know why I own this one. It's not even like the strawberry flavored, which is kind of my favorite anyway. But you know what? Again, it was what we had, so my mother, out of the goodness of her heart, decided, just may as well. And besides, literally after this, I don't particularly think I'll be having any lunch anyway, and it's sort of for the reason I'm about to explain now. It's because for the first time, like I said last night, I went to a tranquility spa session at the leisure centre. Now here's how I'd technically describe the experience. It is, for the first time in many years, I've felt like a new man after literally putting in no effort whatsoever into what I was doing. Now, the first thing I have to say is that, you get changed, all you really bring is like a wristband, like a pair of swimming shorts, and a towel. You can bring in water, that's absolutely fine, but I didn't on this occasion. But you're about to see why that didn't seem to matter either way for what I'm about to explain to you next. What I did next was, well, okay, here's the layout. It was quite a largish place for like a spa, well, considering where it was. At the center of this room, there was perhaps the biggest jacuzzi I think I've ever seen in my life. You could probably fit at least 25 people into this jacuzzi. I'm not even joking. And it was so deep that, well, I'll explain what it was like later. But along one wall, there was two actual saunas and one steam room right beside it. One was a Norwegian-inspired steam room where the humidity was at least at 85%. The other, the Hungarian sauna, had humidity at 100%. The only difference is that the Norwegian sauna, which is the one I used for at least 15 minutes, was incredibly hotter. It was at the temperature when I went in was at least 85 degrees. It was the heat was like nothing I've ever experienced for years. And I should point out the last time I've ever really used a sauna before was back in, I'd say, August, this time 6 years ago, back in 2015. And the sauna there was very good. I have no faults about that. And this one, equally, I had no real faults too. I just lay down and just looked up, and for the longest time, it was sort of a little bit hard to relax because I was getting used to the surroundings. And then what I thought was my heart pounding incredibly fast turned out to be my...
I went to a spa, and here is my analogy of going to a spa. So, I went to a spa, and now I've got a cornetto. What's the other content? Where's the other content?
Well, I'm just getting to that, actually.
There's no content in saying you went to the leisure centre.
I'm just talking about how I felt and what I got away from it and what I'll probably do now. As my cornetto slowly melts.
What do you mean what you'll do now? What, as if going to the leisure centre spa was a life-changing experience?
Well, I'm just going to take it easy for the rest of the day and think about, working myself to enjoy it next Sunday.
Do you hear this one thing? Hear the one thing about the Pakistan minister?
Is this really this necessary, Patrick? Also, is Pakistan the only nation you can say sort of a racial slur but get away with it?
No.
Well, it's pronounced Niger, but I suppose,
No, not according to me.
Okay, Patrick.
You know who else I like? You know the YouTuber, Nigga Higger?
Yes, I do.
Right, so why are you laughing?
Because you're saying that just because I'll find it funny because it's so stupid. What the...
Sorry, did I ruin the corner?
Right, let me see. Where was I? It was I found out what I discovered later is it was actually my head was kind of like throbbing as opposed to my heart. It was very strange because, again, the humidity was so extraordinary that it was kind of a little bit hard to, and also breathing in such places like this is something that does become a lot harder to do where once you're in it for an excessive amount of time. If you try and inhale through your nose, you're just going to get this whiff of warm air that almost basically either causes your nose to tingle like crazy, or you have to like breathe in like so frantically that you feel as if like you're just about to choke on your own breath. But fortunately, because there's nothing worse when you struggle to like get up and then you go for the door and it doesn't seem to open at the first pull. Fortunately, it was a push door and I did manage to push it in time, because I don't know if I was like thinking about collapsing or whether or not that was the sort of thing that was going to happen, but no, fortunately there was no collapsing incidents or anything, scary that happened. My computer's making noises at me again. So, what happened next was that I went into the steam room, which was a much marvelous relax, because the sweat all over my body was just kind of like cooled off a little bit, although again, it was still I had a little bit of difficulty in trying to like breathe, through my nose, and I had to like kind of like do it in like short puffs through my mouth, which was not technically too pleasant, I should say. I know it's beginning to melt already. It doesn't taste as good as it used to be, I'm afraid. So after about I only stayed in the steam room for about 5 minutes or so. Then what happened was that I was going to take a little bit of a break and have a shower. And there's two different types of showers. One was sort of at the far end of the room, which just like a normal shower, as you might expect. The other shower had this huge. It was like one of those very modern showers where there's no screens or anything like that. And you just walk onto a platform and just pull a lever or press a button. But this one had these beautiful single huge lights that changed color depending on what three modes of shower you wanted. One was cold mist, one was tropical climate, and the other final one was tropical storm. The cold mist was this beautiful, slow trickling of ice cold water, which it was beautifully cool by contrast, because when it first splashes onto you, you feel as if somebody's just throwing ice cubes at you. But no, it was absolutely fine, and the light above changed to this really coolish blue, which it kind of almost illuminated your whole body, and they had this speaker on in the corner which echoed parrots and other exotic, I don't know, do green pigeons make sounds? It echoed basically tropical wildlife, something you might find in the forests of, let's say, of the Shan Plateau in Burma. Then the tropical climates was, it was kind of strange, because first you were splashed with hot water, and then there was this coolish water which sort of went on around you like a mist. So it was kind of you had this force field of warm water and much cooler water surrounding it. It was very strange. And then the tropical storm was constant hot water, then followed by a smidge of cold water thrown in just to keep your senses alive, and you were covered all over in red light. The tropical climate was green and the cold mist was blue. I'm pretty sure I mentioned that before. Very nice. So basically, when I was done with that, I felt actually quite a lot more refreshed, that I could actually kind of walk around and not feeling too badly off, which is when I went into the jacuzzi, basically in the center of the room, and when I sat down in it, it was so deep that it was basically up to my chin. And then when I pressed this huge, very auspicious looking button on the side of the jacuzzi, you got this. All the water churned so madly. It was it was about to just splash into my eyes, because bubbles were starting to appear all over the place. And after that, it was absolutely it was far better than I'm trying to represent, because even now, after a whole hour, I still felt like I didn't really feel like moving, but I kind of like sort of wanted to move, and I was in the jacuzzi for about nearly 20 whole minutes, and by the time I decided to get out of it, I'm not exaggerating when I say this, it was such hard work to get out of the jacuzzi because my body was so limp that you probably would have felt more exhausted if you'd just done a 30-mile run. I'm not joking either. It was ridiculous. No chance of that melting now. So, once all that was done, I went over to, once again, the further side of the room, opposite to the saunas and the steam room, and lay on this beautiful heated lounger. And by the time I got myself into a position with the towel just underneath, I felt, like I said, exhausted, limp, like as though I had just been put into a ringer, and suddenly I became incredibly gelatinous. I felt like I couldn't move, and I didn't want to move. I felt like there was no need to even think about doing anything because I've just about had just about all the blood and water in my body just sort of like squeezed and pressed until just about everything came out, and I was so limp that. And I was on this lounger for a very long time, probably longer than I realised. And by the time because it was about like 12:30 when I finally realised, yeah, I think I should get off because it was just about time to leave. I had to roll myself on my side just to gather enough strength for my legs because of the way you lie on this lounger. It was one of those where your legs go up quite high and there's a bit of a curve where your butt is supposed to land, and you just kind of lay back in that fashion, sort of a bit like this, except your butt is quite low and the rest for your legs is quite high. So I got out, and for the first time in what must have been 10 years, I actually used a water fountain because I just felt like it only occurred to me as I was just about getting ready to leave is that I'd basically been drenched in water and lying all over in water, and I really wanted some water and just had some almost on account. And I was beside this fountain for 2 or so minutes at this point, and I just left in about with 3 minutes left to go. But what exactly you could do in 3 minutes, you ask me. So, on the whole, I think what that sort of experience taught me is that maybe I need to reserve Sundays just for time to get as much relaxation as I can. I don't particularly think there's any need whatsoever to try and do anything too stressful, anything too stuff that's going to put me in in a really bad temperament. That's what I think I'm going to do for the rest of the day. I'm just going to stay here and just take it easy, because I don't really feel as if there's much point in doing anything that's going to cause unnecessary problems. So I'll maybe do some stuff later on this afternoon when I really feel like I should, but for the most part I'm just going to sit here and relax with whatever's left of my cornetto. Or, better still, I could book a session at the gym first and then have a spa day afterwards. So I would have felt pumped up after having some exercise, and then felt relaxed for going to the spa, and basically feel like a completely new man. It might be a bit pricey because it'll come to about £17 to do, but you know what? I think for what you get, it's money well spent for 2 hours to basically enjoy yourself and then relax your mind. So with all that being said and done, I will hope to see all of you guys again later on today. Have a very peaceful and a very, very stress-free day, ladies and gentlemen, and goodbye for now.